Jon Morosi of MLB Network says that Houston has plans to work out a long-term extension with Framber Valdez, Christian Javier, and has had conversations with Kyle Tucker as well. That's encouraging to hear, but my whole thing with reports is I hate hearing reports. Just tell me the news. We heard that the Astros were talking to Kyle Tucker early in the season last year. Nothing got done. We never heard that the Astros were talking to Yordan Alvarez. You know what we heard about the Astros and Alvarez? That a contract extension had been done. So reports mean absolutely nothing to me, but it does kind of bring up a question. If you could pick one, 713-780-ESPN, the HRP listener line, 713-780-3776, you can pick one Astro to give a long-term extension to, and let's just assume that the salary's good relative to the position, right? Like, I don't want to get into the weeds and like dollars and cents. Let's just assume that for all of these guys, it's good for relative to their position. Good, healthy deal. We know it. Who would be the one player for you that you would give a long-term extension to?
Boy, I mean, again, it's dependent upon like when their contract is up.
Okay.
Because look, I mean, one of the obvious choices fans are going to say is Jeremy Pena. I mean, he was MVP of the World Series. He was MVP this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, see, but you got him under control for quite a while. I'm not willing to jump on that bandwagon. I need to see him a little bit more for a couple more years to see that he's going to have the consistency. We thought Correa was going to be great, and then we didn't realize how many times Correa would be injured and have all these other things going on. So at the end of the day, they decided not to pay him. I don't feel it's time to put Pena in a conversation where I want to lock him up long-term or do something like you did even with a Bregman. So I think that when I look at it, I have never been as big a Kyle Tucker fan as others. And I don't believe that Kyle Tucker, you and I think we're on the same page with this. I think when Kyle Tucker's contract's up, they're going to let him walk. Because if they could have locked him up for a Yordan-type deal, I think they would have done that. Because at the end of the day, it ends up still looking like a bargain based on what everybody's paying for big-time talent in Major League Baseball. But if it means that he's going to get above what Yordan is getting, and I think Yordan, head and shoulders across the board offensively, is a more dominant and impactful player, average, power, everything that he does, to where I think I can find another Kyle Tucker before I could find another Yordan Alvarez. I think you have to look at the pitching staff too. And to me, as much as Framber has done, I'm still more in the camp right now of looking at a Christian Javier saying, I think there's more Christian Javier can do. I think his stuff is more dominant. I think as much as we saw maybe the best of Framber a year ago, we know that sometimes he has a tough time dealing with high leverage situations and emotional moments. We've seen a calm, cool, collected Christian Javier that has unbelievable stuff.
Is it still fair to say that about Framber?
About the emotional stuff?
Yeah,
I still saw it in the playoffs. I saw it late in the year. It concerned me. I brought it up on the show with you when you needed a Maldi to kind of calm him down.
I think it concerns you, though, because it's his history. Like, if you go look at what he did in the postseason, his postseason was fantastic. Like, he was great, and it showed great improvement from where he was a year ago. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's fair anymore to continue to use that as like a knock on Framber.
I think it's still a part of his overall makeup. I think that we saw it in the playoffs. We saw it where Maldi had to calm him down, and even still, there were times where it took a lot, whether it be the calls behind the plate.
But he was dominant. He was dominant this playoffs.
And I'm not taking that away from him, because I'm still at the end of the day saying if I'm going to lock up somebody, it's going to be one of those two guys. I think it's going to come down to Javier or Framber, because I believe the pitching staff now is at a point where at a certain point, as long as you can keep the majority of them together, or the nucleus of the young pitching you have a chance, because that lineup's locked up and that lineup's really good.
See, I think you've named the four names that would be under consideration for me, and we're curious who would it be for you. 713-780-ESPN, 713-780-3776. Brostash says Kyle Tucker, easy. Lemmy says Framber Valdez. Degenerate Gambler says Machete. He wants Martin Maldonado long-term for the Houston Astros. It's a bit of a troll. Twitch.tv/ESPN 97.5. That never happens, though. They never troll over on the Twitch channel.
Hey, guys, back to the video in just 1 minute. Before that, I want to tell you about Fitz Roofing. If you got a leaky roof or need a full roof replacement on your business or your home, or you want to get something done around the yard or maybe something around the house, they have the best warranties in the business, the best ratings, and the best service. They're going to take care of you every step of the way. Fitz Roofing, making a difference, one home at a time.
You mentioned the four guys that would be in consideration here: Jeremy Pena, Framber Valdez, Christian Javier, Kyle Tucker for me. I'm with you on the Pena aspect of it. You still have 5 years of club control for Jeremy Pena. He's still 2 years away from arbitration. You don't need to do that yet. Now, you could have those conversations if he did well next year, right? And now you're looking at a Wander Franco, you're looking at an Alex Bregman, you're looking at a Jose Altuve type of deal where you buy him out of arbitration, you give him a nice little raise now, and you buy out a couple of years in free agency. He's off that list for me, though, because it's still a little bit too early before I have those conversations with Jeremy Pena. So that leaves me down to the three other guys, and I really don't know how realistic it is with these three other guys because Framber, Kyle Tucker, and Christian Javier are all about to enter arbitration. So they're going to see significant dollars, right? They're not going to be desperate like a Jeremy Pena who was on a league minimum deal to get locked up and have some security, like Yordan Alvarez wanted to get locked up, wanted to have some security. I look at Framber Valdez's age. And also, one thing that's kind of like interesting whenever we have the Framber, Tucker, Javier conversation, they are each under club control for the next 3 years. So you're not losing any of those guys sooner than the others. They're all locked up through 2025. You have them for 23, you have them for 24, you have them for 25. They're not going anywhere unless you trade them. Framber's 29 years old. Framber's already 29. So next year he'll be 30, 24 he'll be 31, 25 he'll be 32. I'm not really interested in locking up players into their mid-30s no matter who they are. So Framber Valdez, because of where he's at age-wise, 29, and I have him under club control through 2025 when he'll be 32 years old, I'm out of the Framber Valdez conversation there because of his age. So that leaves you with Kyle Tucker and Christian Javier for me. Both of them are 26 years old. So they're both, still have plenty of years to go. They're under club control through their 29 years old, but you can say you sign them for like a 6-year deal now that carries them to like 32, 33. So it's a tough conversation. Do I want to get rid of Kyle Tucker, who's my corner outfielder, very good, great defensive player, really good hitter, entering the prime of his career, or Christian Javier, who's part of the starting rotation, who's also entering the prime of his career, who just threw one of the most historic playoff performances in Major League Baseball history, still an underrated performance, and I can't believe it's as underrated as it is. What you pointed to is the reason that I go Christian Javier, because the strength of this ball club is the pitching rotation, and keeping the pitching rotation together is going to make them formidable in a playoff contender and a World Series contender as long as you keep this rotation together. You're looking at a long stretch, kind of like the Atlanta Braves, where if you put this rotation together, I don't care what your lineup is, you're going to be formidable. You're going to be a playoff contender. So it comes down to Tucker and Javier for me, because the strength of this ball club is pitching, because I think Christian Javier is going to be dominant over the next few years, and that's not to take away from Kyle Tucker. I give the slight edge to Christian Javier, and I also think Javier is more realistic than Kyle Tucker.
Well, I agree, and I think that I was focused on the pitching for that very reason. I also think that you can find another Kyle Tucker-esque type player in free agency if you need to.
Yeah, maybe not Tucker, but you can find a corner outfield bat as opposed to a dominant starting pitcher.
Exactly. And you're also, as long as you're going to be, and we're seeing this more now since we've gotten further away from the cheating scandal, more to focus on the success. A guy like Abreu saying in the playoffs, I watched this team and said that's where I want to be. You're going to see more guys that are corner outfielders, which I don't want to say are a dime a dozen, but you can get an impactful corner outfielder in free agency. Finding aces and really good starting pitching is a lot tougher proposition, and the teams that get them try to lock them up and keep them. That's why you lock up and keep the guys you got. That's why I said it would come down to one of those two guys. I believe, and you factored in just an extra aspect of that, I believe with Framber and his age, and with Javier, the fact that I still don't see a ceiling with him because we haven't seen him through and through as the full starting pitcher. We just know how good his stuff has been. We know when he's been called on, he's been doing the job. But we also know that he looks like he can do it for a long time. So that's where I focus, because as long as you keep that pitching together, you're right. You can get a Glavine, Smoltz, Maddox, Steve Avery type deal where as long as you got those guys in your rotation, those horses leading the way, everyone's going to want to jump on board.
Give me the starting pitcher over the corner outfielder. It's not to take away from Kyle Tucker. Uncle Barney disagrees, though. He says if it's 5 years plus, give me Kyle Tucker.
I don't think anybody's getting 5 years plus.
I don't know if I'm going to invite Uncle Barney over to next New Year's if he's disagreeing with me.
No more UFC for you, Barney.
Yeah, no more.